The story of Shakespeare's The Tempest might just give us the best look into Dr. Monty, aka John Dee's life. And new news has broken that just might be our biggest confirmation on John Dee yet. All of that and more will be unveiled in this video, so stay tuned. As you know, we recently solved the impossible Easter egg after 8 long years, revealing Monty is John Dee. And I posted a massive video breaking down the very first zombie cycle, how it all truly began. That helps finally explain why Element 115 changes from orange to blue, as well as helps explain the ambiguous nature of the Giant and Zetsubo no Shima Maxis radios, and the contradictions and gaps they and some of Monty's quotes have with the official Chronorium timeline. We couldn't have probably done all of that without finding out Monty was once a human. Both of those videos will be linked below. Initially, I planned to also incorporate a section in it analysing the Tempest, but I felt it would derail the narrative and conversation too much, and it was already so long since it's over an hour long, so instead decided to sanction it off into this separate video you are seeing today. Before we get into the deep diving here, a great place to start, I think, is taking another look at Dr. Monty's reading from The Tempest from Revelations radios and how important that really is to this entire premise, something I've harped on so much in all of these videos. I think that I very quickly glossed over it in part 2 to save time, and so I didn't really convey how big the connection was to the fullest extent. Let's have another listen.
Our revels are now ended. These are actors, as I foretold you, were all spirits, and are melted into air, into thin air. And like the basest fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great globe itself. Yea, all which it inherits shall dissolve, and like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind. We are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little lives are rounded with a sleep.
This is Monty verbatim reading a section from The Tempest that is entirely the voice of a character named Prospero. But why does any of this matter? John Dee was a towering figure whose life intersected with the intellectual currents of his age. Known for advising Queen Elizabeth I and amassing a vast library at Mortlake, London, Dee's expertise in mathematics, navigation, and the occult made him a cultural icon. Yet, his pursuits draw accusations of witchcraft, notably during his 1555 arrest for calculating horoscopes alongside his friend and mystic Edward Kelly. Some scholars and theorists propose that Dee was a major contributor to William Shakespeare's works, alongside figures like Edward de Vere or Francis Bacon, his arcane knowledge shaping plays like The Tempest. Now, of course, these are just theories and speculation in the world. We don't really know if this is true or not, but the fact they exist is the point, not if it is true or not, because this is something Blundell would have been aware of when researching into the matter. Rather than being Shakespeare himself, Dee's influence might have been woven into the canon by collaborators as proposed in theories, a legacy hidden in plain sight. Dee's life echoes in The Tempest, particularly through Prospero, a skilled magician exiled for his art. Scholars like Francis Yates suggest Prospero reflects Dee, a white magician defending his intellectual pursuits against a suspicious world. Dee's library, with over 4,000 volumes, mirrors Prospero's reliance on books, and his trials parallel the play's redemption arc. Given Dee's death in 1608 or 1609, we don't have the official date, but in the leaked Treyarch document, they have it as 1608, potentially when he becomes immortal, then becoming Monty. Regardless, according to the death of 1608 or 9, he couldn't have penned the final version, but his ideas and partial writings may have survived. Collaborators, perhaps those in Shakespeare's circle familiar with Dee's courtly ties, could have completed The Tempest as a posthumous defense, a thank you for his contributions to the broader broader Shakespearean oeuvre. The theory hinges on Dee's proximity to Elizabethan literary and theatrical spheres. His role as a court advisor connected him to patrons like the Earl of Leicester, while his mystical reputation made him a figure ripe for dramatization. Shakespeare's plays, brimming with astronomy, lore, and occult references, suggest a depth of learning Dee possessed, but the Stratford-born playwright might not have easily accessed. The Tempest distinguishes Prospero's natural philosophy from Sycorax's black magic, mirroring Dee's efforts to legitimize his work amid sorcery accusations. As a contributor, Dee's legacy could have been honored by finishing the play as a plea for his vindication, with Prospero essentially serving as a mirror for John Dee, only using a different name, again something theorized in the real world. Whether this was actually intended or not is irrelevant. The fact that many people in the real world believe that Prospero was a fill-in character for John Dee in the real world is the very point, not whether it happened in actuality or not. In Revelations, Dr. Monty's recitation of Prospero's lines, "Our revels now are ended," which is Act 4, Scene 1 from The Tempest, casts him as a Dee-like figure. Reading the introduction of Prospero is him quite literally stepping into the shoes of his character, and instead of simply being a radio about essentially nothing, it becomes a use of literary knowledge that Monty forces to outright tell us he's John Dee if you are paying close enough attention. Monty, meddling with forces beyond comprehension, also mirrors Prospero's point in the play. The usage of Prospero insists he's not malicious, much as Dee sought to prove his innocence, and the writers of The Tempest did for him posthumously. His reading of The Tempest becomes a subtle confession. He embodies Dee's spirit, with the play serving as both a defense and a tribute to a man whose genius was misunderstood, and Monty giving himself that tribute. Here, Monty aligns with Dee's real-life struggle, amplified by Shakespeare's collaborators clearing his name through Prospero's triumph. Essentially, reading this play is Dr. Monty saying, "I am lying, but I am not evil. Just a man doing his best with forces far outside his or my control." But what exactly happens in The Tempest? So this is stuff that I've already established in my prior videos, and that's essentially where we left off. But this is where I want to get further. And the question is, but what exactly happens in The Tempest? I've only ever seen surface level discussions back in the day when Revelations released, comparing the parallels between Prospero and Dr. Monty. However, could the plot itself bring us deeper? To summarize, The Tempest by William Shakespeare is a complex tale of betrayal, magic, revenge, and ultimate redemption, centered on the enigmatic figure of Prospero, a wronged duke turned sorcerer. The story unfolds on a remote island, where Prospero, once the Duke of Milan, has been exiled after being usurped by his brother Antonio, with the complicity of Alonso, the King of Naples, and others. Stripped of his title and cast adrift with his young daughter, Miranda, Prospero lands on this desolate isle, where he discovers and masters arcane arts over 12 years, harnessing the island's mystical forces to wield near absolute power. His command extends to the elements and the island's inhabitants, including the ethereal spirit, Ariel, whom he frees from imprisonment and binds to his service, and Caliban, a native creature he subjugates despite resistance. Prospero's isolation breeds a deep-seated resentment, his heart consumed by a relentless desire for retribution against those who wronged him. His opportunity arises when a ship carrying Antonio, Alonso, and their entourage, including Alonso's son, Ferdinand, and brother Sebastian, passes near the island. With his sorcery, Prospero conjures a violent tempest, a storm of such fury that it wrecks the ship and scatters its passengers across the island, each group believing the others lost. This act sets the stage for Prospero's elaborate scheme of vengeance, as he manipulates events with precision to confront his enemies. Miranda, now a compassionate young woman, witnesses the shipwreck and is struck with empathy, unaware of her father's hand in it. Prospero, meanwhile, orchestrates a series of trials. Ferdinand, separated from the others, meets Miranda, and the two fall in love. Though Prospero tests Ferdinand's worthiness through labour and feigned hostility, ensuring his daughter's future. Elsewhere, Antonio and Sebastian plot to murder Alonso and seize power. Their treachery mirrored the past, while Alonso grieves, believing Ferdinand dead. Simultaneously, Caliban, resentful of Prospero's dominance, allies with two drunken shipwreck survivors, Stefano and Trinculo, in a farcical plot to overthrow him, revealing the island's undercurrents of rebellion. Prospero's magic, channeled through Ariel, keeps all parties under control, weaving illusions and spectral visions to manipulate their emotions and actions. He torments Antonio and Alonso with guilt and fear, conjuring a banquet that vanishes and a harpy that condemns their past sins. Yet, as his plan nears its climax, Prospero's perspective begins to shift. Moved by Ariel's observation of human suffering and perhaps by Miranda's innocence, he grapples with the cost of his vengeance. In a pivotal moment, he chooses mercy over malice, recognizing that forgiveness offers a deeper resolution than retribution. He orchestrates a reconciliation, reuniting the scattered group, blessing Miranda and Ferdinand's union, and restoring order. In the play's closing, Prospero frees Ariel, relinquishes his magic, and prepares to return to Milan, his dukedom restored. The Tempest being both a literal storm and metaphorical tempest in Prospero's heart, resolves into calm. He forgives them, spares them, and releases the bitterness that's defined him. In the final act, he takes his staff and snaps it into two, casts his spellbook into the depths of the sea, and walks away from the supernatural power that shaped his exile. He reclaims his old life, not as a sorcerer commanding the elements, but as a man ready to leave the island behind, swapping retribution for a hard-won peace. Some scholars see Prospero as a shadow of John Dee, the Renaissance alchemist and occultist whose obsessive chase for knowledge and influence led to both brilliance and a fall, mirroring this journey from dominance to a humbler end. That arc tracks Dr. Monty and his journey, a cunning mastermind weaving chaos across timelines, pulling strings with god-like control, only to confront a moment where his grand designs falter, and a shift towards resolution hints at a release for reality from his relentless grip. When the time comes, he cannot destroy the Shadow Man, and instead relents to a want to return to his life as it was, essentially allowing the cycle to happen again, a return to what once was. Prospero also steps past the fourth wall, addressing the audience directly at the end of the play.
Now my charms are all o'ergrown, and what strength I have's mine own, which is most faint. Now 'tis true, I must be here confined by you or sent to Naples. Let me not, since I have my dukedom got, and pardon the deceiver dwell on this fair island by your spell. But release me from my bands, with the help of your good hands.
Additionally, some scholars argue that Prospero's asides and soliloquies, such as in Act 4, Scene 1, where he reflects on the fleeting nature of the theatrical spectacle we are such stuff as dreams are made on, may also function as moments where he indirectly speaks to the audience, though these are less explicit than the epilogue. The direct address in the epilogue, however, is the primary instance where Prospero unequivocally breaks the fourth wall. This parallels Dr. Monty in the way that he too would speak directly to the audience. Monty both directly breaks the fourth wall and talks to us, the audience or specific YouTubers, as well as less explicitly breaking the fourth wall in subtle ways like calling maps by their menu names. I'll play a few clips from them now.
Nach der Antuten. Shinno Numa. Gino der Toten. Ascension, the Russian Cosmodrome.
And at the end of this fourth wall break in the epilogue, he specifically asked the audience for applause, saying it is the only way to free himself. This also parallels Dr. Monty's arc. By the end of the story, he was entirely depending upon us, and Primus/Ultimus to take action to free him. Only us participating, playing the game, the same as an audience clapping for a play, could set Monty free. Ultimately, I think by really understanding Prospero, we can get a much better idea of what Monty Monty's thoughts and motivations are at different times in the story. This arc of isolation, education, a building, or power in want of revenge, but when the time comes for revenge, instead choosing inaction and mercy, perpetuating the cycle, much like Dee's. It very much shows us Monty's arc with the Shadow Man. Originally in isolation in Agartha, Monty obtains great power and near omnipotence. Then he spends all of the cycle making plans and attempting to defeat the Shadow Man, only to ultimately restart the cycle and show him mercy instead of utterly destroying the Shadow Man and likely himself in the process. Because ultimately, just like Prospero, Monty yearns for a return to how things were. A simpler life, like when the story began. He yearns to return to being no one more than John Dee and Edward Kelly, two friends and researchers. Long before this battle of gods and monsters, time and space, when time was linear, when there was no multiverse, which by the way is confirmed by both Monty's and Maxis's radios on Alpha Omega. There was a time when there never was a multiverse, and that's what I explore in the story of the first cycle. Many events, thanks to the bleeding of Element 115 infecting the world, it broke it up into a multiverse. Our understanding of how everything really began is just completely wrong and contradictory between their dialogue and the timeline. So here was going to be where the video wrapped up originally. But then, in the midst of whilst I was writing this, we solved the Der Eisendrache book cipher with the help of you lot in the community, and it led down a rabbit hole of other videos about John Dee. Then I wanted to give this one some space so that I didn't spam you guys non-stop about this topic, and focus on some Black Ops 6 and other content in the meantime. And it's lucky that I did, as since then, more files from the developer hard drive have been unlocked. Essentially, some of them have passwords, and these passwords were entirely unable to be found on the drive. You basically had to guess or brute force them, and lucky for us, some community members managed to do so. And the file that is pertinent to us is one discussing the various Dr. Monty radios recorded for Revelations. It shows what each one is titled internally and where the planned locations are for them. What is important here is that if we look up the Dr. Monty radio where he reads the Tempest, which is arguably the foundation and key to this entire John Dee theory, the details on it prove to be quite the smoking gun. While people who would tell you this John Dee stuff is unfounded would suggest that this radio is in essence a fun nod to Shakespeare and Blundell's love of books, the file basically proves otherwise. The title of the Tempest radio internally lists it as the final Monty fact. The Monty facts being the series of radios from him where he discussed various facts about each of the characters in the crew. And this final one, it seems, was meant to be a Monty fact about himself. And the reason it's elevated to be even more important than just learning it is meant to be about Monty is that it was meant to be only unlocked after beating the Easter egg, / in essence meaning Treyarch considered this important enough that it was a post-ending mystery to stew on. For unknown reasons, likely due to limitations in rushing out Revelations to the finish line and focusing then on Zombies Chronicles, it was not implemented this way but remained in the game, or possibly it could have been because it might have been too on the nose and Blundell wanted to make it more vague and felt like this would give away the game. I believe this is basically proof for what we've been suggesting earlier. This radio was Blundell's last-ditch attempt to give us one last hint at the John Dee mystery hiding behind the impossible Easter egg. Now I did end up including this in the Decipher Solve, but this video was in writing before that, like I said, so that's why I'm repeating myself here, but it's very important to still be contained within this video for those who just want everything regarding the Tempest, Prospero and Monty parallels. But what do you think? Do you feel like the connection is stronger after hearing the story of Prospero and the Tempest, and do you think you learn more about Monty and his motivations through this video? Let me know in the comments below. This should be one of our last videos on John Dee for some time, unless anything new is discovered. This one simply started a while back and only recently finished. The only other video I have planned on this subject right now is breaking down the lyrics of many of the Easter egg songs in Black Ops 3 Zombies and how they parallel Dee and Monty, because there's definitely a lot you can interpret from them. I have some other leads regarding a possible Easter egg and other Easter egg related stuff in Black Ops 3, but they're not enough for content right now and they haven't materialized into anything substantial enough, but maybe they will in the future and then I'll be there to talk about them. But for now, that is all. Thank you for watching the video. Make sure to check out the playlist on the Impossible Easter Egg series in the description and on screen as well if you want to be recapped on absolutely everything if anything you found confusing here. I know there's a lot to take in, but there's only so much I can do. There's a lot of information. Unfortunately, it's just spiraled through video after video after video. Maybe one day I'll have to do a recap of absolutely everything just for those who are getting lost. Anyways, thank you for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe if you're not here for latest and greatest Call of Duty news and information. So anyways, thank you for watching and bye.